welcome to Great British Ghosts. Today I'm in Shropshire. Later on I'll be heading to Shrewsbury, which has the reputation of being one of the most haunted places in the country. But first of all, I've come here to the ancient market town of Ludlow to visit the Feathers Hotel, which is well known for its fantastic Jacobean facade and for its ghosts. The oldest part of the Feathers, including the world-famous facade, was built in 1619 during the reign of King James I. Ludlow remained loyal to the crown throughout the English Civil War, during which it's thought that the royalist soldiers were billeted at the Feathers. However, since 1863, it's been a hotel and is said to be one of the scariest places to stay in Britain. One of the hotel's staff, James Powell, agreed to take me on a tour. So, James, there's still a lot of the old features here, then?
Yeah, we're actually in the original part of the hotel at the moment. Let me take you upstairs.
And it was a coaching inn?
That's right. It was originally built as a coaching inn. And still, to this day, has people come to visit Ludlow. This is Edward IV room, known as the writing room.
Oh, look at that fireplace. Yeah, that's fantastic. Is that original?
It is original. Original Jacobean fireplace there.
It's in good condition, isn't it?
It is very good condition.
So are there any good ghost stories in this room?
Not in this room itself. If I take you through into the James I room next door.
Oh, look at this again. A great fireplace and
Yes,
a fantastic ceiling.
Yeah, they don't make them like this.
They don't, do they? So what's the story in this room?
Story in this room, we've had quite a few reports of a gentleman being seen at the window, sitting down.
What, sitting in the seat here?
Exactly where you are,
yeah,
with a dog at his feet.
Any idea who he might have been?
We don't know who he is. We do know that he is dressed in old clothing, so it is from a time long before we were here. But as to who he is, we don't know.
Well, there was a report by the night porter that when clearing up at night in the James I lounge, he would often hear his name being called. Now, it happened so often that he eventually got used to it, but he's adamant that this had to be of a paranormal origin, as there was no one else up at that time. All the guests were in bed. He was the only member of staff on duty. Therefore, he basically accepted the fact that it was a ghost.
Just this way.
What's this, the Great Hall?
The Great Hall, also known as the Prince Charles Suite. We hold a lot of wedding functions here, it's very good. But we have had some ghostly happenings here before. Several years ago I was working on the bar there. I heard footsteps in this room. I looked around the corner, saw nothing, went back to work. 2 minutes later, heard definite footsteps on this floor, all the way across this floor. The funny thing about it is, about 3 years after it happened to me, one of the housekeepers ran downstairs saying that she'd heard footsteps in this room. It was about the same time of day as well, about 12 o'clock. And the funny thing is, I never actually told her what I'd experienced here, so that was quite strange.
I think the Great Hall is probably one of the most haunted parts of the building because of the activity that would have ensued in there over the years. Obviously, it would have been a meeting place for family members or for soldiers or for dining or big functions. So I think that's probably why it's probably one of the most lived-in parts of the hotel.
Karen, have you ever had anybody who hasn't been able to stay in one of the rooms?
Yeah, we had a couple come and they specifically asked for a haunted room, which they had. They were given room 212. And the husband actually only stayed 3 hours before he had to leave, and they actually eventually stayed in the travel lodge in Ludlow.
What on earth did they see?
They never said what they saw, they just didn't stay. They couldn't stay.
So any idea what might be in that room? Have you ever had anyone in there that's told you?
I had a lady who was insistent that Henry VIII was in that room. Whether he is or not, I don't know.
And have you ever seen any ghosts yourself?
I've had feelings that there's something there, but I've never actually physically seen anything.
So do you think the Feathers is haunted?
Yes.
OK, and now we're entering into probably what is the most haunted room of the hotel.
So what happens in this room?
OK, well, one night, husband and wife in this bed, and in the middle of the night, the woman got dragged out of bed, pulled out by her hair by some spirit, while all her husband felt was a gentle stroking on his face.
So she actually got pulled out of the bed by a ghost?
By her hair, by a ghost, yeah.
She must have been terrified.
I bet she was.
And has that happened since?
We have had a number of reportings over the last couple of decades of this kind of attack on a woman, yes.
So basically she's a jealous ghost?
Looks that way.
Explaining a physical interaction with a ghost, they're very rare occurrences. Obviously, on most events, you will get feelings, you will get senses, you will hear things. That tends to be the most common paranormal activity that we experience and that we also hear that other people have experienced. An actual physical interaction with a ghost is a very rare occurrence. Again, it's something that can't necessarily be proven, and we have to take the word of the person that it happened to and the fact that it was reported immediately to the hotel staff, and allegedly the lady was very, very scared by what had happened.
So lots of staircases in the hotel, James?
Yeah, certainly. It's like a rabbit warren. Very easy to get lost.
And lots of uneven floors.
I quite like it. It adds to the character of the building.
It certainly makes you realise you're in an old place.
It does. But now we're entering into a more modern part of the hotel.
So what's happened in here?
OK, well, you remember the apparition from the James I lounge with the gentleman with the dog?
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's been seen in this room, walking from this side of the room to that side of the room and disappearing totally into the wall.
And again, have a few people seen that?
They have indeed, yeah.
Well, what's really interesting about that is this wasn't part of the original building. As you say, it's an extension.
Well, that's right. This part of the building was built in the late 1950s. Before that, there was nothing here apart from the extension to the car park or the old coaching park.
Because you can see why people see ghosts in a very historical room where there's lots of old beams and possibly the stone tape theory. But unusual to see it in a modern extension.
That's right. That's what makes this haunting so interesting, is that the ghost isn't restricted to the old part of the building, that they're actually exploring the more modern part of the building.
Maybe he was just giving his dog a walk.
I think so. I've got one more thing to show you on the outside of the hotel. OK, and this is the last ghost story I've got for you.
So it actually happened outside?
Outside the hotel, yeah. Now, one day about 20 years ago, so it's quite old, over at the Bull Hotel there, which the building itself is very old, a woman was seen crossing the road here and actually walking through a parked car on the side of the road and then just totally disappearing. At the same time, a gentleman was walking on this side of the road, saw the apparition, saw it disappear and was a bit freaked out. He went into the bar of the hotel, and just by his face, the barman could tell that something was up. He ordered a double brandy, and the barman said, "I bet you've just seen the ghost of the girl walking through the car." And the man was totally shocked, said, "How could you know that?" He said, "Well, you're the sixth person to see her this year."
No way! Was she a historical figure?
No, that's the strange thing about it. She was dressed in 60s clothing, miniskirt, high boots. So that's quite strange that something so modern's attached to a building this age.
I think that's the first ghost story I've heard of someone that's not been in old-fashioned clothes.
Yeah, it's very bizarre why it's attached to this hotel.
The twist in the story about the girl being seen walking through cars in the street outside the hotel is that it's rumoured that it's an apparition of someone who is still alive. There's a local reporter who apparently tracked down a woman who now lives in a completely different part of the country, who swears that it is her who's being seen as a young girl.
Well, the Feathers Hotel is a fantastic historical building, and in fact there are quite a few here in Ludlow, and apparently many of them are haunted, including the castle, which is said to have the ghost of a white lady. Definitely worth a second visit.